What's going on, everybody? Just want to talk a little Miami Hurricanes offense and how this team has developed from what we saw in 2022 to this year. Obviously, it's a cataclysmic change in the right direction. Shannon Dawson came in. They brought in different players on the offensive line, A.J. Allen in the running back room. They've gotten just better across the board there and getting Xavier Restrepo back. A lot of key points. It starts with the personnel, as I've said on this podcast and many other places and articles on all Hurricanes, etc. Football is about 80% recruiting or talent acquisition. You got to talk about the portal, obviously. But if you don't consistently do that, you're still going to have other problems if you don't get the right coaches. Dawson, he's pushed all the right buttons. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're also going to talk about some of the hidden gems in terms of how Miami's getting better. So first off, let's talk about the passing game in a couple of different components. I've got this article on all Hurricanes. It's really unique to me as I kind of just scan through my notes here. When you think about Miami last year, how many times, let's say by the middle of the season, did you say it's 3rd down and 6, manageable, but not where you want to be? And you were not only concerned that Miami wouldn't get the first down, you were concerned the ball was going to go the other way. Strip sack fumble, a deflection that goes for a pick six, whatever. They found a way to shoot themselves in the foot. This year, it's different. Let me give you an example. Miami is converting not only 52% of the 3rd downs. More importantly, they're being clutch when they do it. There is not a more clutch play that's happened this year for any team, in my opinion, than the Tyler Van Dyke going up top to Jacoby George play towards like 2.5 minutes left against Texas A&M. That was a 3rd down, and it was a rather long situation. I believe 7 yards. Miami was only 3 of 9 against A&M. Only 3 of 9. But when you hit a play like that, it's one of the rare times, because I am a stat guy, that statistics, you can kind of toss them. You hit a touchdown on 3rd and 7 inside 3 minutes to secure the victory. Yeah, that's kind of important. Miami hits those plays, and Jacoby obviously gets by his guy. He did his job, and then the throw was a dart. And then whoever the safety was for A&M also helped out with one of the worst attempts at a tackle I've seen this year. But Jacoby took advantage. When a team fails, you capitalize. George did that. So Miami's 3rd down offense, they can run, they can pass, they can do short, underneath stuff. The screenplay in the first game against Miami of Ohio, you see Colby Young just weaving his way through, and you're like, that's a 215-pound man making guys miss, using power. They find different ways to do it. Very hard to defend Miami's 3rd down offense. They can do it in so many ways. So that brings into the receiver corps in general. This is my second point here. How many players in college football, as a collection of 3 for any team, have 15 receptions or more? There's probably some, especially those pure air raid offenses, that all they do is throw it. But think about an offense like Miami, which is pretty darn balanced. There's probably not too many that do. I'm sure Washington's one. That offense is the best passing game in the country, but they really don't have a very good run game. Restrepo has 17, Jacoby George has 16, and then Colby's got 15. When you have balance like that, and you take into account that most teams, quite frankly, just don't have enough corners, you're in trouble. You need at least, and I know this is unrealistic, at least 2 NFL corners on the field pretty much at all times to go against the top offense today. That is completely unrealistic, but because the offense knows where the ball is going, the defense doesn't, and you're playing horizontal football now, truly, with a good running back in the backfield. Miami's got 5 running backs that are all good football players, and they can score from about anywhere. If you do not have NFL level corners, by the way, A&M's secondary is so overrated, then you're in trouble. Miami has 3 guys that are going to at least get drafted or go to the combine, whatever it ends up being. There's a ways to go, but all 3 have a chance. And that doesn't even take into account, like Isaiah Horton. On most teams, Isaiah is going to be either starting or going to have like 10 catches already. He's just in a logjam because Miami's receiver corps is playing so well at the top. Isaiah's a good football player. Most teams would start him. Miami can put out a lot of different types of players with size. He's next up. But then you have guys like Brashard. Do you really want to give him in a screen situation? You saw what he did against A&M on the kickoff. He's just behind Restrepo. Miami has those options. Teams are in trouble trying to even remotely cover them. I think we're going to see a little more. I know this is going to sound surprising, but they're going to see a little more passive defense from teams and allow Miami to run. That's just my guess moving forward. Make Miami inch their way down the field and hope that the one thing that Miami's not done well this year's penalties. That's just that is one stat. It's bad. Rowdy, one of the guys that works on All Hurricanes, wrote about that today. It's, hey, we got to fix this. Check out his article at All Hurricanes. He's 100% right. They got to stop the penalties. The big guy, Maui Go, he had like 3 holding penalties against A&M. That can hurt your passing game and your running game, your field position, your defense being a force, all of those things. They have to get better there. But that's still being pretty nitpicky. The run game's consistent. All the running backs are averaging over 5 per tote. That's pretty darn good. Tyler's even had a couple really nice runs when he needed to, and they just beat you to death with balance. Short pass, power run, outside run, over the top. There isn't an area that the passing game isn't taking advantage of because it sets up the run game as much as the run game sets up the pass. That is really unique to see at the collegiate level. You see that in NFL quarterbacks, but that's why they're getting paid. So that kind of brings up the other thing that I want to mention. Tyler Van Dyke, I just want to read his stats. You can take this any way you want, but Van Dyke, in my opinion, is one of the top 10 players in college football through 3 games. Just you can take that any way you want. I'm not going to go into a dichotomy of what that is. I'm going to write an article about his comparison in regards to where he's at on the Heisman list, things he would need to do here very soon at All Hurricanes. But 57 of 75 through 3 games, 76%, 822 yards, 8 touchdowns, only 1 pick. It was a bad throw. It was the one, the Miami Ohio game. I believe that was even in the first half. So he's gone a long time without a pick, and he's quite frankly been quite accurate, especially again, just like with the throw to Jacoby, when it really matters. You're going to be remembered for moments more than like that stat. I mean, that stat line's really good. But what's more important, his overall stat line or making a money ball throw against the one team that truly had the talent to compete with you? Give Tyler a credit. I mean, he's getting protection, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you still got to make the freaking throws. And he's done that. Hats off to him for getting better. Hats off to all the guys around him for working with him. They're getting better, and they're a pretty fun offense to watch. This is a team that's going to be dynamic moving forward. Now let's talk about the running backs a little more specifically. Miami has the 5 running backs that I mentioned, all averaging over 5 yards carry. And as a group, I believe it's over 6. You're not going to just stuff Miami's running game because of the guys we just talked about. Miami is in some ways setting up the run because of the big passing plays they have. They're averaging like the 3 primary guys are averaging just over 15 yards a catch. If you want to get into specifics, that's not just one guy like the 3 collectively. That's impressive. Can they do that all year? I don't know, but I don't see who's really going to just slow them down. Who's got 2 just ready-made NFL corners at least. Nobody has 3, but it's going to be hard. But here's the thing that most people don't know. Van Dyke and Miami's only, with all their passing they've done this year, have only given up 4 sacks. A&M obviously can get after the quarterback. They had 2. If Miami gives up, just by math, 1.3 sacks per game, that's 16 for the regular season. You're good. Van Dyke hits enough big plays and the running game's consistent enough. If all they do is stay at the same plateau that they're at now, and then, again, I'm just going to keep bringing this up, you got to eliminate some of the goofy penalties, whether it's special teams, defense, and like the holding calls. They just get a little bit better there, and it'd be nice if it was quite a bit. Miami can be a top 10 team, no problem. Right now, to me, they're pretty close to that, but they've only played one really good team. So want to see where they go here in the next couple of weeks and how focused they are. That's something else I'm going to talk about at All Hurricanes this week. Team like take the Florida State Boston College game. If you come in lazy-eyed, I don't care who you play, you can have a bad game. Miami plays Temple coming up. If you screw around, that game can be close. What some of the other teams that have goofed around in the last couple of weeks show you that? Like the quarterback for Michigan had 3 picks against freaking Bowling Green yesterday. I mean, if you're not focused, things can go sideways. So that's Miami's next challenge overall. But again, they've only given up 4 sacks. The offensive line's a heck of a lot better. Matt Lee, Cohen, maybe the most improved player in college football is Inez Cooper, the right guard. He got thrown into the mix last year, got some starts, and maybe that benefited him. But I watched him, went back and watched film against A&M. He is really doing a good job of keeping his base and being powerful in the run game. He's a pretty good pass protector, too. That whole group, I'm not trying to single out any one player, but is doing pretty darn good job. And then the running backs are doing their job as well. The Canes don't throw the ball to my liking as much to the running backs, but again, the receivers are dominating so much, it's kind of hard to go against it. And it's amazing just how little he's getting hit when you know they have to throw, especially on third downs. Teams really have to bring a lot of pressure to get to Van Dyke. If you have to bring extras, and it's an old saying, if you can rush 4 and drop 7, you're in good shape in football. It's true. 7 defenders to throw in between not only makes fewer windows, it's more guys to make tackles and potentially get a tip pass or create a fumble, secure a fumble, whatever it may be. Miami is doing pretty good. If the running backs continue to block like this, the passing game is going to excel. I still would like to see more from that category. Henry Parrish has 3 catches for 11 yards. That's it. But it's kind of hard to bitch and moan considering how well they've done. All of that, this is something I brought up numerous times at All Hurricanes. Miami is number 8 in the country. Number 8. With their passing game hitting 20 or longer passing plays. Miami, I don't know what they were last year. I thought about looking it up, but I didn't want to be astonished at how bad it was, so I didn't even check. But they're in the top 10 nationally. When you're hitting chunk yardage plays, that begins at 20. That's how most people grade that statistic. It completely changes what the defense is going to do to you, or at least try. And that's why I come back to that point. I think you're going to see more cover 3, cover 4, try to keep everything in front of you, rally to the football, and hope Miami kind of screws up. Most teams don't have the talent to guard Miami out wide anyway. I think that's what we're going to see more of because they're not getting to Tyler very much, obviously. 4 sacks isn't much. And the receivers are making plays after the catch. The receiving corps has done good. I don't see any reason for a guy like Cam McCormick, who's, by my opinion, by the way, he's the best blocking tight end in college football. He is tremendous. This group is really, really hard. So if you're going to even remotely talk about Miami's offense, you got to bring that up with the balance. But then it's, man, number 8 in the country. I believe it's hard to be that way consistently, but I was kind of going back through the 3 games. Miami's consistently done this. It could be in any situation. They've got 17 passing plays of 17 or more yards, or 17 of them of 20 or more yards. That's an awesome stat when you're a balanced team. It's one thing to just be air raid and just throw constantly. You can hit a screen that's just hike and throw and get them in, like the one Colby had was that way. But most of Miami's, it's a throw, it's a broken tackle, it's a making a guy miss. It is dynamic. And it's just credit to all the players involved, all the coaches. They've done a really, really good job. The other thing that I want to talk about, and this is going to be kind of to wrap it up, sometimes you have to play situational football. And I think, honestly, the Jacoby George touchdown they were in the midst of that, but then they saw something and they took it. You have to be able to run up tempo. Dawson's offense will do that. But you still have to run 4-minute offense some of the time. For instance, your defense just went out on the field. The other team went on an 11-play, 80-yard drive, kicks a field goal, whatever. That's a lot of gas out of the tank. It takes more energy for defense to be on the field. If you go out there and go 3 and out, especially if you're in just go gas to the to the floor, man. We're just going to hit it. Your defense going to be right back out there. That's hard. And remember, Miami's got some guys banged up on D. Miami at the end of the A&M game gets the ball, and it's just over 3 minutes or whatever, that third down. They may have had a different situation on what they were thinking A&M was going to do, but Tyler sees an opportunity one-on-one and he takes it. They were running the clock, but when the opportunity was there, you have to, at the end of the day, you have to bet on yourself. Why else are you playing? Tyler did that. Jacoby did that. They maximized. They scored the game-winning touchdown, or the game-clinching touchdown, I should say. They were already ahead. But getting that to a 15-point lead after being up 41-33, iced the game. That's winning football. So they've been able to grind it out when they needed to and then adapt. If a team's going to dare you and your guy's better, we're going to show you. So I think Miami is as balanced in offense as they can be for, remember, this is 3 games in. It's incredible to have this much offensive cohesion 3 games in. There aren't too many first-year coordinators at a team. I'm not saying Shannon's not called plays before. He has for years. But to do it at a new school is really hard because his system has got to fit everybody in some capacity. Excuse me. There's not a lot of teams that can do that. This looks like more 4, 5, 6 years into the process than 3 games. That might be the most astonishing part, is they just look flat out comfortable. Miami doesn't always have to be dynamic. But again, 4-minute offense, you're grinding out the clock. You're trying to run down the game, end it. It's pretty straightforward. But when you screw around with us, if you put a one-on-one out there that we can capitalize on, we've proven that we can beat you. That's what the film is going to show to everybody else. They got a big stretch coming up. The back half, it's weird how Miami's schedule is. It is extremely back half loaded. A&M game being the exception. They got Georgia Tech coming up. Then they got Carolina, they got Clemson, like all in a bunch. And while Georgia Tech's not great, they've vastly improved too. And hats off to their staff. They're at least competitive in every game after being just a complete doormat there for a while. Miami's going to have to be able to shift each week based on the personnel they play. That's not exactly an extravaganza of information, but they've already shown they can do that. So that's relieving for the Miami staff. It's one thing to give them the information. It's how the players process it and put it on film. Right now, it's pretty hard to bitch. I think that they're good in 3rd and 2, running or passing. 3rd and 7, they can run a draw. They can run a screen to any of the receivers, or they can just run straight drop back. And here's the other thing that surprised me. I didn't even think about this coming into the season. The touchdown that George caught from Tyler, I forget what yard line it was. He rolled right. Tyler is not known as a rollout guy. He looked very comfortable, looked towards the pylon, and Jacoby snuck back inside. That was a really, really good job by those two. And Jacoby was wide open. He faked out the A&M defender. One of his other 3 touchdowns right there. That might be about the coolest play, the way they did it. I was down close to the end zone when that play happened, and I'm like, he is wide open. And when I saw the ball in the air, it wasn't even halfway there. I'm like, that's touchdown, because he'd beaten him so bad. If you add all those different kinds of components to the passing game, especially in the red zone, that is a pain. I'm curious to see how Miami does against some better defensive lines and overall units. Again, I really don't think A&M's secondary is very good. Teams that can put more pressure on Miami's DBs, we'll see who they are. Carolina's secondary is not very good. They've got a very good front getting after the pass. I think it was 9 sacks they had against South Carolina in game 1. So Miami will be challenged there, but the receivers are better. Clemson's the only team until they play Florida State that I could see the front end and the back end even remotely being able to match up with Miami's offense consistently. But Clemson's so inconsistent over the last year or so, you don't know what you're going to get. So that's going to be something we'll get to in a few weeks. But to wrap this up, Miami's offense is just so much better in terms of balance this year compared to last. That's number one. They don't shoot themselves in the foot. They don't get themselves constantly in 3rd and 11. There's no quarterback, no offense, no era that 3rd and 11 is good. Tyler Van Dyke is making clutch throws, even if the intended starting play was a run or a short pass. If he sees something he can hit, no hesitation, they go after it. Proven. And then finally, they've adapted. 4-minute offense, going up tempo, whatever. They don't care. They just do it well. They do their job. This is a very cohesive unit, and it's only 3 games in for Dawson and his offensive system. So it's pretty darn impressive. I'm curious to see if Miami has anything else they can really throw into. Like I mentioned, the running backs catching the ball a little more, but they haven't needed it. I guess you could throw to McCormick some or get Jaleel Skinner or something, but it's still pretty hard to bitch. So anyway, to summarize, this is a really good offense, and I think Miami has a chance to even be more dynamic as they grow together because it's 3 games in. Everybody be safe. Take care.